G'day, legends, and welcome to the Thursday Sesh by Celtic Down Under. I'm your host, Jared, and joining me tonight are Willie and Stephen. How are you, Willie?
I'm doing okay and just enjoying the sunny spring days over here in the mid-20 temperatures. So I've been cooking away quite nicely.
How are you doing, Stephen? Actually, you're roasting up in Sydney. It's been pretty warm up there from what I heard.
Yeah, we've had a few stinkers. Had a 36-degree day yesterday, but we had a nice cool southerly come through today, so it's much cooler today. But yeah, it's nice to see the sunshine again in the warm temperatures. Although 36 is a bit too warm for the northern hemisphere boys like myself.
It's funny, you get down here in Melbourne today and it was nice and sunny, but it was freezing, hence the hoodies being worn. Rocking one of those Celtic Down Under hoodies. We're going to get the site back up soon, so people are about to buy them if they want them. But yeah, it's all happening today, so we're going to crack on to the podcast. So we're going to dive straight into Feyenoord 2, Celtic 0 in the Champions League. Now, I watched the game in two separate patches. I watched the first half, and then I had stuff to do, and then I watched the second half. And yeah, it's for me, I kind of find it hard to get an overall take on the game because I didn't sit it down and watch it start to finish. So I tried to do that last night, but my thing wasn't working. So I'm going to rely on both you boys, Willie and Stephen, to really get into the nitty gritty about the game here. So I'll start off with the starting lineup because there was really a couple of questions going into the game. Who was going to start at centre back? What the midfield three was going to be, and who was going to start up in the wing. You'd have Kyogo and Maeda up front. Who's going to be the other one? Is it going to be Yang? Is it going to be Palmer? Well, it was Palmer. The midfield three was Kalmak, Hatate, and O'Reilly. And then down the back had Johnston, Taylor, Scales and Lagerbalke together with Joe Hart in goals. On the bench, you had Yang, Home, O, Wada, Bernardo, Turnbull, Bain, Morrison, Forrest, Ralston, and Mikey Johnson on the bench for homegrown reasons, obviously. So, looking at that lineup, Stephen, what was your thoughts going into the game?
Well, I think the lineup was probably as good as it could be, given our injury situation at the back. I think most people had reckoned that Lagerbielke had showed up well in his substitute appearance against Dundee, and Liam Scales had played well too. So it made sense to see them, given that Phillips had a little bit of an ankle problem and didn't make the game. So that was pretty obvious. The fullbacks picked themselves and the goalkeeper. The midfield, I think, again, everybody wanted to see Hatate in there, and he was named. And the only other question up front, was it going to be Yang or was it going to be Palmer? And he went for Palmer, which pushed Maeda across to the other side of the pitch, which was probably an interesting discussion point. But as far as the team lineup's concerned, it was pretty much as expected.
And Willie, what was your thoughts?
There's no real surprises in the lineup, but I suppose Yang being dropped for Palmer is probably one of the main sort of eyebrow raisers. But yeah, for me, it was probably the strongest team we could have put out there.
Yeah, I don't think there was much more we could have done with the squad we had available. Typical Celtic in Europe, when it rains, it pours in terms of injuries or things happening, and we bring in a couple of centre backs, Starfelt moves on. You bring in Naroski, you bring in Carter Vickers gets hurt, you bring in Lagerbalke, and then Welsh signs a new contract, he gets hurt. So you go, emergency loan, we need a centre back, someone a bit experienced. So you bring in Phillips, and yeah, he misses the game due to injury. Typical. It's just typical for us. I call that centre back for us as a bit of a Bermuda Triangle for us at the moment. It's a bit all over the joint. So, yeah, that was that. But diving into the actual game, Willie, what was your thoughts on the first half performance overall?
I thought we shaded the first half, to be honest. I thought we were slightly the better team. I don't think it was a great encounter for the first half, but we were certainly in that game, and the free kick came at the wrong time. I mean, O'Reilly leaves his leg out, causes a free kick. Joe Hart's standing way too far to one side. He shows way too much of the goal to the Stings, who's taking a free kick, and then the wall doesn't do its job. And like you say, it's a typical away day in Europe for Celtic. It's just shot ourselves in the foot there and then. But I thought competitively we certainly pressed them high. We kept them to sort of speculate the shots from outside the box. I think we did what we needed to do and try and frustrate them. And if we'd gone in 0-0 at half time, it would have certainly worked in our favour because they would certainly come out a bit more frustrated. Their fans weren't enjoying it. There was 20 minutes in, they were passing the ball about the back, and their fans were booing them for doing that. So if we carried on to keep it 0-0, the fans might have turned on them as well. So yeah, it was a decent first half, but it was just the seriously wrong time to lose a goal.
Yeah, 100%, Willie. And then off the back of that as well, for me, I thought the early on that yellow card for Lagerbielke was pretty soft.
Yeah.
I thought that was that, but then they had one of their guys put an early tackle in, and they on Maeda in the first was about a minute and a half in as well. It wasn't even looked at. Could have been a potential penalty. So you just have a look at the whole situation here, and I'm not blaming anything, but yeah, as you said, Willie, I actually agree with you, with a better team overall in the first half. And if we play like that against them when they come to Paradise, we're a chance to pick up 3 points there. What was your thoughts, Stephen, on the first half?
Yeah, look, I was quite happy with the shape of the team. I was quite happy with the tactics. I think Brendan got it spot on. We were quite efficient in the high press. The press triggers all seemed to be working well. We were closing down their passing channels, and we were frustrating them, as Willie said. I don't think we really created that much for me to be able to say that we were the better team. I think we were the more effective team without really looking like scoring. Like, we never really worked the goalkeeper. We had a couple of half moments, but it wasn't as if we were dominating in an attacking sense. We got the tactics right. We were frustrating them, and we were heading towards going in with a nothing each scoreline. But I still don't think that we were threatening enough in the final third. Our final ball into the box was poor on a number of occasions, and when we went in at 1-0, that was my worry. My worry was that we hadn't done enough in the attacking third to warrant any confidence that we were going to equalise in the second half. So, as Wally said, it's just an awful time to lose a goal, especially after most of our tactics and game plans had worked quite well up to that point.
Yeah, we'll have to agree with you on that. So I'm going to bring up a few comments here as well. So John Clements was watching Celtic away in Europe summary. Oh, we're doing well here. We're well in this. We could get a result. Oh, F's sake. Yep. Pretty much summed up the first half to me. Yeah, so that goal that they scored in the wall, like, I actually think I don't actually blame Joe Hart for that goal. I think the wall didn't do their job, but at the same time, there's been stories about it going around, and the rules. Like, on the weekend, we saw the referee marking out the meter clearance around the wall for the attacking players as well and stuff like that. And Kyogo was interfered with when the shot came in, and then he turned away from it anyway. So that's where I put most of the issues on that front. But yeah, I don't actually blame Joe Hart for that goal, all things considered. And we've got Drew saying unprepared, players in too late to fully gel, too late to get up to match fitness. Signs look a mile off the pace. Hard to believe they can find a pace to make up the yard or two they're missing. And then, so Willie, what was your thoughts on the second half? I
didn't actually get to see the second half live. I had to watch it when I got home from work. I ended up 45 minutes late for work for some reason. I don't know why. So I had to. At the end of the first half, I had to jump in the van and drive off. I had audio only, but it didn't sound great. And when I watched it back, it was up to the 60th minute, up until the sending off. We were still in the game. I mean, could we have scored? Might have sneaked in a goal and got a draw out of it, but the sending off killed us. And then 4 or 5 minutes later, Home goes and gets himself sent off, and that's it. It's just damage limitation from there on in. It was. Became a routine training exercise for Feyenoord, and for us, credit to the 9 men, because they held out. It could have been a lot worse, but It's just, as I said earlier, it's just a typical away day for Celtic. You know what I mean? You think it gets so promising and then it just collapses from under you. Like,
Yeah, and Stephen, what was your take on the second half? We'll get into
Yeah,
the goal
well,
and VAR and all penalties and all that stuff in a minute. So, what was your overall take on the second half?
yeah, unfortunately, I did watch it live, so not a great experience. Just getting back to their goal before half time for a second. I agree that Hart's not the most culpable, but I do believe that a more younger, more agile keeper gets over to that shot. I think it was a poor free kick to give away from O'Reilly, and Kyogo's jumping at, making himself small instead of making himself big in the wall. He just needs to be braver in that situation. And third on the list, I'd have Hart to blame because it wasn't a really hard hit shot. It was more like a curled, floated shot, and he should have had plenty of time to get over there and get a couple of hands on that. And he did get there and got a hand on it, but only managed to put it into the net. So I think a better, younger goalkeeper would definitely have saved that. Moving on to the second.
Can I just quickly jump in?
Yep.
With the way he struck it and the side of the field it was from, should Kyogo have been on the other end of the wall or not? Because to me, when he turned in, it looked like he was trying to, normally if you're going to be in the wall, you're there to you're prepared to cop the ball square in the face if need be. But he looked like he was turning and I was worried, okay, was he bumped a position or was he protecting his shoulder because his outer shoulder was the one he keeps injuring? So could it have been either of them? And if that's the case, should he have been at the other end of the wall?
Or should he have been in the wall at all? Or should they, they normally leave a striker up for an out ball if they gain possession at a free kick. So that's maybe true, but regardless of all that, he needs to be braver when he's in the wall. And I'm not having a go at Kyogo. He's a 5'7" striker, so it's not his job to be brave. But in that situation, in a wall, you've got to just take one flat smack in the face if you have to keep the ball away from the goals. And he turned side on, and the ball went right past the gap that he left by doing that. So not that good from him. And and Hart, I think it definitely has to be better. But it was a really, really lazy challenge from O'Reilly. I know it's a lot of people saying O'Reilly had a good game, and he did have his moments, but I just think his lack of pace is exposed at that level, and that he just looked like a tired, lazy challenge and a terrible time to give it away. Just on the second half, I felt as if Feyenoord came out and sort of hemmed us in the first 10 minutes of the second half. They came out with a renewed purpose, and that's to be expected when you've scored a goal right before the break. We got in at nothing each. It might have been a different story, but they come out with a bit of fire in their belly, and they kind of penned us in. And by the time they got the penalty award and we're down to 10 men, the game was over after that, and it was just a case of how many they were going to score. And the red card for home just added insult to injury.
Yeah, have to agree with that. Andrew Galea had a couple of comments. So Kyogo should have never been in that position, and O'Reilly struggled with the pace of the first half battle. I think overall, yeah, we've touched on all of that there. But if we get to the something I want to touch on before we go on is, okay, Lagerbelke's red card and Holmes' red card. So Lagerbelke's red card, I have no problem with that being a yellow and being a penalty. It was his first yellow card that was the reason he got sent off, in my opinion, overall. I think they were both soft, but at the same time, fine, whatever. It was great to see Joe Hart save a penalty. There, I thought, it was going to start must have been snowing in Hull or something like that because, and Hull freezing over and stuff because he's saved a penalty. So that was interesting. And then Holmes' red card, letter of the law, red card, because studs up. But in Scotland, that's not called. In Europe, it's a red. And the inexperience we have, where it was Lagerbelke and Holmes' first Champions League game, they're playing in the top quality in Europe, and it's fine margins. I think those are good learning experiences for those two players in particular. And then having the 9 players off the back of that doing as well as they did, all things considered, I looked at it and going, oh, great, we're down 9 players. We're probably going to get done by 4 or 5 now. And For it to be 2-0, I think that just shows quite a bit as well there, the work rate and the fact that the players kept pushing through it. I'm happy with the damage limitation that ended up coming from it. What do you think, Willie, about the red cards?
I think Lagerbielke, he can feel a bit aggrieved the first one. It is a bit of a soft yellow card. It is a tackle from behind, so technically to the letter, the referee's probably right to flash the card, but it's soft. The second one, the defender gets round and there's a bit of jostling. I think the attacker pulls Lagerbielke's shirt and he tries to counterbalance himself and his arm sort of goes up. But again, he just needs to, inexperience, he just needs to let the ball run. Joe Hart had it covered. He just needed to let it run. Joe Hart would have picked it up and it would have been all kosher. But again, he's given the referee a decision to make, and you can't go doing that at this level because you won't get away with it. Whereas Odin Holm, it's just stupidity. It's just frustration. He's just gone in, stads up, sliding in. That's just, you're never going to get away with that. It's a straight red. I have no qualms or complaints about that one at all.
We've got some comments here. So Andrew Galea, Holmes' foot ricocheted off the deck and bounced up to hit the bloke in the shin. A bit unlucky. RL77, Feyenoord player conned the referee for the penalty, in my opinion. What's your opinion on it, Stephen?
Yeah, I'm going to disagree slightly with both of you. I don't think it was a penalty. I agree with what Willie said. I think Lagerbielke, and I've got a bit of sympathy for him here. I think he's got to get his body in between the striker and the goalkeeper because he's not 100% sure that ball's going to run through. So that's what he's tried to do. Now, Willie's right. The guy's had a tug at his jersey and he's unbalanced him, and his arms came up in the act of trying to regain balance. He's caught the guy across basically the upper chest, neck sort of area, not with any great force, and the guy's gone down as if he's been shot, right? Now, my issue is when the VAR looked at it, they didn't look at the incident where the guy pulled his jersey. They only looked at the arm coming up. So if you look at that in isolation, it just looks as if Lagerbielke's lifted his arm. But that's not the full context. The full context is the guy pulled him first. So to me, it should have been a foul to Celtic, and there would never have been a decision to make with a yellow card. So I've got an issue with that. I think VAR probably wouldn't have overturned it because it wasn't a clear and obvious error. But I disagree. I don't think it was a penalty. On the Thiago Holm one, I can see why he was sent off. But again, there was no force in it. There was no force or maliciousness in the contact. He barely grazed the guy's leg. And again, the guy's gone down as if he's been shot by a sniper. And I think that's helped make the ref's mind up. Then it's gone to VAR. And because the studs are up, because he's went to ground, the VAR's never going to overturn it. But I think if the referee had just booked him for that, I don't think anybody would have really raised an eyebrow. I don't think it would have been upgraded to a red by VAR. I think VAR would have been happy with a yellow. So I think the ref, he was definitely card happy with Celtic players. And he wasn't so keen to dish out cards to the Feyenoord players, so he was a bit of a homer, and I think we can consider ourselves a little bit unlucky, especially with a penalty.
It's funny you say that because Strangelove, the doctor, has said the goal was created by Kyogo moving, blah, blah, second half right up there. Ref was a homer, so Strangelove has said that as well. Andrew Galea, it's natural to put your arms across the bloke ducks into it. So just off that, in particular, yeah, I agree. The only reason I said that I had no problem with it being a penalty, Stephen, is, okay, the push happened and everything, and it should have been a free kick our way. It's not going to get called with the way he was calling the game. But if the contact with the arm coming up happened anywhere else on the pitch, it's a yellow. That's like it would be given a yellow. I'm not, even in that situation, I'm just trying to figure out the best way to say it without going on a massive rant here, but it's one of them ones where I wouldn't have if someone did that to one of our players elsewhere on the pitch, even if we pushed them and they flung an arm up and elbowed it, I'd be wanting a yellow card. And the fact of the matter is, it happened in the box is what led to the penalty as well. So I can't complain about it. That's football at the end of the day. You got to make these decisions. That's what gives us something to talk about on the podcast. So the referee was shocking though.
So was his socks. What were they all about? Like black top, black shorts, and a pair of luminous yellow socks. Man, he looked like there's all sort running around the pitch. Like,
I don't know, Willie. But I've got another question though that I want to ask you was, what's with our guys' socks? Constantly, they've constantly got massive holes in the calves and stuff. I don't get it. Why are players doing that these days? Now we're talking about socks. I'm just going to bring it up. How's me head in? Get a bigger pair of socks.
I think it's to relieve pressure on the calf muscle or something. Is it?
Yeah, there's some physiological reason for it. I've got no idea, but funny you should mention it. I noticed someone doing it, and I thought, what the hell is that all about? And I meant to Google it, and you know, I never get around to it. But maybe I'll go and Google it.
Saw it on the weekend. I think Yang had massive holes in the back of his socks, and I'm just looking and going,
Johnny Hayes is the worst. Like, you see him play for Aberdeen, he's like got red front of his socks, and then the whole back of it is just pink. His whole calf muscle is basically out. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like, what is he doing?
Anyway, that's the real questions. Everyone, let us know in the comments. Why are the players ripping holes in the back of their socks? What's going on? But anyway, we'll get back to the game. Willie, you got any players you want to give a special focus to?
I think special focus has to go to Liam Scales, man. This kid is on his way to be Player of the Year, and he'd probably win the Ballon d'Or too if he carries on in this trajectory, man. It just absolutely cruised that game like this because he defended where he needed to defend. He was always where he needed to be, and the way he moved the ball about was pretty good. Like, so I was really impressed for somebody who I thought was just going to be a bit part player for one game only until we got other people in. He's really impressing me. Like.
And Stephen, you got any player you want to focus?
Yeah, I mean, I think the only two players who come out of the game with credit was Scaled, as Willie says, and Alistair Johnson, who I think was excellent and showed that he's absolutely capable of playing at that level. One of the only players in the team who did show that conclusively. So I think we can be quite confident moving forward that we've got that right back slot covered for the Champions League. He's definitely a top class player, and I thought he was excellent.
You see it. Feyenoord tried to attack us on our right straight away from the off, and they were getting no change and quickly moved to attacking sort of plays down the wings of the left, and that's where Greg Taylor started to struggle a wee bit then, like, because it was all coming at him. I think the second half, 44% of the attacks came down our left, like, so.
Like, I think the good thing about Johnson for me is I think he's good at the dark arts as well. He knows when to tug a jersey. He knows when to give a foul away. He knows when to go through a player and take a yellow. And he's just got it all in his locker. He's the sort of guy, he's always laughing and smiling and joking, but he's got that kind of menacing aura about him that you don't want to mess with him. Do you know what I mean? So he's just everything you need your modern fullback to be. He's physical, he's quick, and he's very technically good.
Yep, there's a comment here from Drew as well saying Scales might end up partnering CCV. Strange love about the socks.
That's very true because he's the only left-sided centre half at the club at the moment, I think. And you know, well, yeah, is he still there? Who knows? So I think when CCV's fit, there's every chance that he might be partnering up with Scales.
Fair enough. I think it wouldn't surprise me. He was a couple of days away from being sold, and now you look at him, he's starting a Champions League game. It's great to see. So we're talking about those socks before, so we've got a few comments here that I'm just going to bring up for a laugh. So Strange Love, the doctor, I blame Lawwell's cost cutting for the socks. Why not? And RL77, once you feel the freedom of crotchless underwear, you'll understand why there's holes in the socks. So a friend told me. Had to. Oh, brilliant. And then, so realistically, I think the players there you mentioned did well. One other player that I thought was decent was, got to give credit where it's due. I thought Maeda did a fair bit. I thought he was decent when he was out there as well. Just his work rate was he doesn't drop. I don't think he's had a bad game. Even if he's not playing well, he's still working and earning his jersey. So he's one of the first names on the team sheet to me. I was really impressed with. So, last thing on the game before we crack on to a few other things, but Stephen, what can we take away as positives from the game in Rotterdam? I want a positive from you. Willie, you're going to give us a negative to take away from the game. And then we'll flip a reverse so you get to give one of each.
Can I not go first with the negative?
Okay, go negative first then, if you want.
Now, the positive we can take away is for the first 45 minutes of the game, right up to the first half stoppage time, we didn't look out of our depth. Feyenoord are definitely not levels above us, as some people were suggesting pre-match. And I think we can feel that we're not that far away from being able to match up with them. And it must give us a little bit of confidence that we can get something from them at Celtic Park. I might counter that by saying I think Feyenoord will probably feel they can play better too. And they have got a couple of players to come back from suspension, so they'll feel they'll go up a level when they play us again. But we weren't outclassed, and we weren't overrun, and they never really cut us open until we were down to 10, then 9 men.
Willie, what's a negative?
For me, the negative would be the left-hand side of the pitch. I thought Palmer did. He's getting a lot of stick, but I thought he did okay. He made some positive runs, but he struggled to find his footing once he got into the position when it was time to make the pass or take a shot. So I think with a bit more time and a bit more understanding of where his teammates are moving and what they're going to do, I think he'll be an okay player for us. But I think Greg Taylor struggled to get a grip of this game, Mike. So I think on the left-hand side we were pretty weak, and they were trying. That's like I say. Second half, they realised that and tried to expose it. So,
and what was the other one you've got to do, Stephen? Or did you do both? I've got to do
a negative. Negative for me was Rio Hatate. It was absolutely terrible. Really poor. His passing was erratic. His press wasn't great, and his all-round game was just really off. And I'm not sure that the excuse that's been trotted out for Hatate about a lack of match fitness is really valid, because he was poor from the word go. It wasn't a case of him tiring towards the end of the half. He was just poor for the whole half. And my issue with Rio Hatate is he's always been like that. The difference between his best game and his worst game is just too big. The gap is just too big. When he's good, he's brilliant, and we know he's brilliant. But when he's bad, he's worse than a man down. And you can't have that in the Champions League. I would have, and we get back, we'll touch on this in a bit, but we should have been looking to sign someone who can play a number 10 role and can do that role a lot better than what Hatate served up last night. So I agreed that it had to be in the team, but what he dished up wasn't good enough.
And Willie, you got a positive?
It's a negative. Positive from me. I'd probably switch it to the right-hand side. As Stephen said, AJ, who's class on that right-hand side, he definitely belongs at this level. And Maeda, for me, again, like you said, he worked his socks off. He really ran his heart out for the team. And the amount of times he's not played on the right too much, but when he has, he's kind of looked all at sea sometimes when he's played domestically there on the right for us. So he's put in a really good shift there. So the right-hand side of the pitch, positive.
All right, I'm going to bring up some comments, and then we'll crack on to our next topic. So, Stranger of the Doctor, a lot of fans are kind of losing the plot over the result over here, but I wasn't overly concerned with that. It was all about the performance, and for me, I'm relatively optimistic about the way we played. And he followed that up with, I'm not complaining, I actually thought the character from the boys was excellent. The disappointing thing for me is I believe that our side is just as good as this Feyenoord side. That's football. Fair point. Then Andrew Galea, that role Hatate played hasn't worked with Turnbull or Home either. So it's a bit of a interesting position in the team. So maybe we did need to strengthen the 10, as we were saying just before. Michael Ross, serious question. Are our board aware that there is 2.5 million on offer for every win in the Champions League? 2.5 million is what? Half a Kyogo, to a Matt O'Reilly or a Rio Hatade with some change left over. Yep.
Or 3 Quons.
There you go. Or a
2.5 million is a first team player to the board.
2.5 million is a Yang. There you go. That's what we spent on him. And RL77, the transfer window plus this group is probably going to be a huge missed opportunity. I think it's too early to talk about the group, but yeah, the transfer window, I don't know. Got to wait till we get a healthy team and look at everyone. I've got a couple of other things I wanted to touch on quickly. Okay, so those next two are for the next topic. So this one here. So there was a tweet from TalkSport saying Celtic have lost 58.9% of their Champions League games, the highest ratio of any side with at least 50 games played in the competition. Gotta love it. Gotta love the media just like, trying to kick us when we're down. But then I love this one from Everything Celtic on Twitter. Alternative version. Only 11 sides have won more Champions League/European Cup matches than Celtic. Celtic have won more than Inter Milan, Borussia Dortmund, PSG, and Arsenal. Improvements are needed, but these stats are clutching at straws to have a pop at Celtic. I just love the flip reverse on it. I was like, play the Uno reverse. It was just great. So I think sometimes we just got to take it with a grain of salt. The result didn't go away. And the last minute draw from, who was it, the Lazio goalkeeper has really opened the group up as well. So yeah, it's all there to play for. So I'm not too stressed about that. Now, Stephen, I'm going to throw this one to you to give us a bit of a rundown and start the discussion on financial results for the PLC come through. The club has £72 million in the bank. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, my thoughts are why have we got £72 million in the bank? What is the positive for Celtic with sitting on a cash pile of £72 million? Now, any good company knows that you don't sit with massive cash reserves in the bank if your company has operational deficiencies, which ours does. Namely, we need a goalkeeper, we need a left back, and we probably need a number 10, as we spoke earlier. So there is no reason for Celtic to have 72 million in the bank and no justification for it. And I can't understand what they're doing. The notes that accompanied the financial statements were regarding they're worried that we don't qualify for the Champions League in the future. So essentially, what they're saying is we're setting ourselves up for failure in Europe in case we fail in Europe. All right. Now, I can't be the only one that sees the absolute absurdity of that. It's absolutely self-fulfilling prophecy. If you don't spend money, you're not going to succeed in Europe, and you're going to need that cash reserve because you haven't succeeded in Europe. Now, me and Willie have done several podcasts about this where we talked about this season being absolutely critical because we're standing on the precipice of losing our automatic group stage qualification spot the season after next. And if we have another campaign like last year's, then that's going to happen and we're going to be back in a qualifier again, even if we win the league. And you can see what happened to Rangers this year. They came up against PSV, who are a good team, and they got rinsed, right? And that could just as easily happen to us. If we'd played PSV in a qualifier this year, we wouldn't have beat them either. So the actions of the board over the transfer window have done nothing to suggest to me that they're even the least bit interested in the European tournaments. And to announce a result like that, $40 million profit and a 72 million cash reserve in the bank, and they then try to justify it by saying we're concerned about not qualifying for the Champions League. It's absolutely farcical, and the board have just showed themselves to be absolutely not fit for purpose.
Willie, I'll let you jump in on the back of that.
I wholeheartedly agree with everything Stephen's just said. I mean, revenue has skyrocketed 35.8%, income's up to 119 million, 40.7 million profit, 72.3 million in the bank. That's all great, very well and good. I mean, the board are sitting there, they're drying their tears with £50 notes right now, whilst the team's crying out for a goalkeeper, a left back, a number 10, and probably a striker too. Why do we have 72 million in the bank? Why? You know what I mean? If we had 30 million in the bank, I'd be a happy man. If we spend the other, 40 million on players. Great. You know what I mean? You've got to speculate to accumulate. This board does not want to speculate on the team. You look at the prices we're paying for players, 6 million, they won't go above that anymore. I mean, they paid 9 million for Edward how long ago? And they still won't break that record. They have no interest in doing it. All they're interested in is keeping money in the bank and make sure the dividends go amongst themselves and the shareholders. Like it's wrong. Like,
Yeah,
and also, somebody tell me why the season ticket prices were increased this season. Somebody tell me why the Champions League packages have increased this season. They're gouging the fans left, right, and centre while they're sitting on a massive reserve of cash. I've got this top here, just arrived today, right? A commemorative top that the team will never wear, right? They're flying out the shelves, they're coining it in from the supporters. And yet they've got the gall to tell us that we're sitting on this pile of cash just in case we don't qualify for Europe. It makes no sense at all. If you've got 72 million in cash reserves, why don't you take 5 million of that and give it to Kieran Tierney for the season? And then you've got your left back. Now, the rumours were that Kieran Tierney was absolutely prepared to come here, but the Celtic just didn't think they had the finances to make it happen. But we could have paid his whole salary for a year for 5 million and not made even a single dent in this massive cash pile they've got there. It makes no sense at all. And, you know, we've got weaknesses. We've got players all over the pitch. You talk about Lagerbielke and this supposed injury we have at centre-half. We sold Starfelt. Right, we sold an experienced player who we should never have sold at that price. If he wanted a move, we should have told him, we'll sell you in 6 months' time when your replacements had 6 months to bed into the team and the squad. And that would have gave Lagerbielke all these games. Right, but we didn't. We took the first cash offer that was waved at us for Starfelt, and we brought his replacement in after he's gone. And there you go, we're complaining, or we're worrying now because we've got no experience in the Champions League. I mean, come on, it's a no-brainer. You don't sell him until his replacement's been in the door for a number of months. And that's just a symptom of how the transfer window just went to absolute shit for us this year. An absolute shit show.
Yep, have to agree. You guys have said everything that I wanted to, other than one little thing. Willie said the old speculate to accumulate thing. Stephen, what you said all the time there, if it was me, would have had a lot more swear words involved. So it's a good thing you said it. Just overall for me, it's like come from like a lot of my family members that work in finance, and the old saying is if money in the bank is basically it loses its value because of inflation, and you're in a cost of living issue at the moment. So it was good that you touched on the Adidas stuff there, Stephen, because that's what I was about to add to it. Was we got so many kits, so many drops of shoes and training gear and, you know, streetwear and all this sort of stuff that it just keeps piling up and up and up, and people are doing it tough, paying their heating bills, their power bills, getting food on the table, rents are going up, all this sort of stuff, right? And then they're wanting more, and then suddenly, we've got 72 million in the bank for what? So the thing for me is it's about, yeah, as you said, if we had 30 in the bank, great. It's about making sure we're putting that money to good use for the club. And Strangelove, the doctor here, has pretty much said what I want to do. So my view is I'd rather spend our reserves on infrastructure and opening up more revenue streams, such as a hotel, food and retail outlets around Celtic Park. Yeah, so we've got the Barrowfield thing going for 20 million. Great. That's going to come out of this. But you're not going to pay it all in one chunk. You're going to get finance for that and pay it off over a bunch of time. So you've still got that money there. So then you go to your hotel. If you're going to do that, and that was costed at 30 million. Great. We've still got 20 odd million in the bank if we had to pay for both up front. But you don't have to do that. Long term, that comes in. Unless they're saving this money up to get the 120 million they need to fix the main stand, put another tier on top of that, and turn it into an 80-seater stadium, I can't see what the end goal is here. It's an absolute shambles.
There's only two possibilities here. The one possibility is they're just trying to increase the dividends paid to shareholders. All right, now I know I am a shareholder, and I know how much I get a year from Celtic, and it's not enough to buy yourself a pint down in the Rocks in Sydney. All right, and I know it's expensive down there, but you wouldn't get enough. But Dermot Desmond will get a lot more than that from the dividend payments. Now, the other thing they may be doing is fattening the club up for a takeover. And if that's the case, surely, we need to be, they need to be upfront about that, because that, that's the only thing that makes sense. And I was looking at some stuff earlier on today, and that's 40 million profit they've posted. Why post a $40 million profit? Why not reinvest that money in the business? Because that 40 million profit becomes taxable income, and you have to pay tax on that. It makes no sense to be posting a profit that size. We should be posting almost break-even figures. Everything should be go back into the business. You reduce your tax liability and you increase the value of the club. It's just a nonsense, an absolute nonsense.
Yeah, 100%. That's what they do in Germany, Stephen. Like, they have fan ownership for 51%, and they have a thing that you have to spend 80% of what you make goes back into the thing as a minimum, and then the rest can go to infrastructure projects or whatever. But you've got to spend what you earn.
Yeah.
I'd love to see if there's any other clubs in the world have got that amount of cash in the bank. Sorry, Wally.
No, but they can turn around and say, "Oh, we couldn't attract the right players," and that. I mean, you guaranteed Champions League football. Players like Livakovic and Fabian Rieder are going to jump at the chance to play Champions League football. That is where they'll get spotted by bigger clubs than Celtic. That's where Real Madrid will come and watch Fabian Rieder and say, "Is this boy worth a wee shout or not?" Like, you know what I mean? Not him going. Where was it? He went to Rennes. I mean, are they in European football this season, or are they just playing in Ligue 1? It just doesn't make sense. Next season, the Champions League expands. You're going to get 10 games. A quarter of your season is going to be playing Champions League football. There's no reason why Celtic can't be attracting players to come to Celtic and say, "Look, here's your chance. We'll give you a chance to play in the big time. All right, you might not advance to the latter stages or anything like that, but you'll get a chance to be spotted in this tournament." Like, they're just hoarding money for the sake of hoarding money and patting themselves in the back up there upstairs while the rest of us are struggling. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense. I mean, you look at it, Greg Taylor is really struggling this season, and surely they've identified a left back, not just says, "Right, we'll try and get Kieran Tierney," and then failed, and they just, "Oh, well, that didn't work. We'll try again in January." Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. None of this makes sense to me, and it's great to see the figures. I mean, it's great to see that we're being successful money wise, but it needs to be reinvested. And like, Brendan Rodgers is going to look at that and get really, really pissed off when he sees that there's 72 million in the bank and he's got a team that's going to be struggling. Like,
yeah, rightly so. Yeah.
I'll go one step further as well. You say Brendan Rodgers is going to be pissed off. How about Fran Alonso? He can't even get an extra, 500,000 on his budget, and he's got Glasgow City and Sevco paying double at least what his wage budget is. You got 72 million in the bank. Yeah, I know we talk about things, and we get some people in the comments is like, "I don't really care about the women's team." Great, whatever. But that's their opinion. But at the end of the day, if the club's got 72 million in the bank and you can't make $500,000 available for him to keep a player like Jacinta, which would have potentially meant Starfelt stays if that was a factor, who knows? But then at the same time, you don't lose all these players that have just left and the women's program does well as well. Well, then, I don't know. There's a whole bunch of things here for me that doesn't sit right.
Apparently, Fran Alonso doesn't even have the third highest budget in women's football in Scotland. Like, I think Hearts does. Like,
wouldn't surprise me.
The whole thing stinks to the high heavens of Peter Law. And I'm just going to write out and say that, because everyone's saying, "No, he's a non-executive chairman. He's got no impact on the day-to-day running of the club." But the whole place is reeking of him now. And if he might not have influence in the day-to-day running of the club, but it's been running his image 100%. And all this stuff about, we're stockpiling players in the 2 to 4 million range. We're signing loads of players in the 2 to 4 million range. And that's lawlism. That's what he's been doing for the past umpteen years at Celtic. Buy loads of cheap players and hope one of them's like a Victor Wanyama or a Virgil van Dijk, and you can cash in on them and make a fortune. And that's the wrong thing we're doing. And we've done it again this summer. We've went and bought a bucket load of players, with some with potential and some that just don't make any sense, like Kwon that we spoke about earlier, 800 grand from the Korean second division. I mean, how's that guy ever going to be a Champions League player? All we're hoping for is in 2 years' time, these guys are going to have been successful, and then we can punt them on. So we're not even getting the benefit of that development in a football sense, because Jota was a player who could have made an impact for us in the Champions League this year, but we sold him the first big money bid that came from him. And I'm not saying we shouldn't have, it was a lot of money, but how are we going to get Champions League level players if we buy them when they're not Champions League level, keep them for 2 years and then sell them? It doesn't make any sense. We've got to recruit players at a higher level. And if we have to spend more money on that, that's what we need to do. We've got the money to do it. That's absolutely obvious now. The money's there to do it. We just don't want to.
So I'm going to bring out some comments here. So Michael Ross, it's our club. Andrew Galea, it's madness that Celtic aren't gathering up the best local talent. It's snobbery. Red Scotland, I want the majority of the decision makers at the club to be from the demographic that makes us the club we are, the supporters. Michael Ross was, I don't understand why Rodgers came back to this. And then Red followed up, he must have been sold a lemon. His demeanour recently has indicated to me that is the case.
Just to sort of follow up on what Stephen says, under Ange, we seem to have a bit of forward thinking there. When Peter Lawwell wasn't on the scene, we had to seem to have a bit of forward thinking. We were out, we bought players we needed. We were out, we got Kyogo. Kyogo came in. We got Jota on loan. We got CCV on loan with options to buy. We put players in January, and Rio Hatate, Diaz and Mieda came in with the view of them being hit to get a feel for the league, and then the next season to be one of our main players. There seemed to be a bit of forward thinking, but as soon as guaranteed Champions League football came back to Celtic, reappears Mr. Peter Lawwell as the non-executive chairman, and all of a sudden that forward thinking's just all fallen by the wayside, and as Stephen says, it's gone out project player. There's no first team ready sort of players that have come in this season. Nawrocki, possibly, but he's injured. Other than that, Palmer, you could say he may be a first team player, but other than that, which of the players would you say would you be guaranteed a first team starting berth just straight away off the bat as soon as they signed?
Look, I would go further on that, Willie, and say that you can trace it back to when Mark Lowell took over as the head of recruitment. Guess who's his dad? You know, we've signed something. I looked at it. He joined in July 2022, Mark Lowell. So that transfer window in that summer, you can't really give him any involvement in. You know, we signed Aaron Moy that summer, but he wasn't a Mark Lowell signing. That was a guy that Ange knew. Now, if you look from then to now, across the transfer windows that he's been responsible for, we've had one success, one guy that's been a roaring success, and that's Alistair Johnson. The rest have either jury's out on them or they've been a failure. So that's where you can trace it back to. And that's when Lowell's influence got re-established at the club, and it started being run again in his image. It's not that he's interfering in a day-to-day by transfers. It's that he's got his placemen in place, and the club has been run in his image. Absolutely 100%.
Yep, it's the culture of the place has got that Lawwell stench on it. Michael the boy, now we know why Ange left. Peter Lawwell comes back and we start to go back to the way again. Doesn't want to progress in Europe. Now, I saw something as well, which I thought was, I'm going to just go through because I found this quite amusing. We're talking about needing to spend more on actual quality, Champions League quality players, right? And I understand that. I think it's more about, like the Alistair Johnson signing, it's about signing the right caliber of player that fits the style of play that we are, who's of the level. So this bloke goes, the last 11 players Celtic have signed that had previously played in the Champions League were Compa, Tolyan, Bolingoli, Alanusi, Barkas, Ayeti, Hart, Giacomakis, Jota, Phillips, and Bernardo. It's a bit of a hit and miss sort of thing there, isn't it? And then there's another post I saw, which was just for a laugh. Someone having a crack at the project signing sort of thing. He did an inexperienced but shite combined 11 from recent seasons. Barkas in goal, Tolyan, Compa, Duffy, Laxalt, Malumbu, McCarthy, Boridica, Burke, Ayeti, and Kazim Richards was the lineup he did. Now, the reason I brought that up is how much money did we spend on those players?
You're probably enough for one good, first team ready player.
Some were loan, but the rest of it, all of them were under Law's watch in his first stint or now. And I'm looking at it going, we talk about the project signing, but then we waste money like that. I would rather money spent like that would have been spent on those players. Bring us a Carter Vickers, bring us another Jota, guys who can contribute to the first team. And we also did a dive into it a couple of seasons ago after the Lenny season, but the 10 in a row didn't happen before Ange come in. And I looked into all the strikers that we signed for 2 million or less. We spent, I think it was like 24 or 28 million on strikers over the 10 period on players who didn't even play, who didn't score double-digit goals for the club and didn't play more than 30 games for the club. Says it all. We waste money on stupid shit, and then we wonder why things are happening. But then they get on the media and we've got 72 million in the bank. So now every club that you want to buy players from as well know you've got that money. So what are they going to do? Going to put a premium on it? I don't know. The board just doesn't make any sense to me. This whole situation does not make sense at all.
The frustrating thing for me is watching that game on Wednesday morning here was that I reckon 3 players of a decent quality would have won that game. Notwithstanding the sendings off or anything, if you take them out of the equation, if you put a new goalkeeper in, a younger, more agile goalkeeper, if we'd had a quality left back and a quality number 10 in that team, I think we win the game. And that's that's what I mean. I know there's some people in the comments say we'll never have enough money to lift our status in Europe. But from here, we just don't win games in Europe at the moment. We don't win any games. So any sort of win in Europe is a rise in our status. And that's why we do it. You take it in incremental steps and you don't stand still because nobody else is standing still. And we're going to get left behind here. And that's what's going to happen. This new expanded Champions League is going to start next year. There's more money coming along with that. So the teams that are in it are going to just take off into the distance. And if we're not in it, which we're looking at a qualifier the year after, even if we win the league, we're going to get left behind. And it's just down to a chronic lack of ambition by the board.
It's not only that we're going to get left behind, it's going to be near impossible to catch up again when they're handing out 60 million a season to the 32 teams that make that Champions League. It's going to take a massive effort. No matter that 72 million in the bank will soon dissipate trying to catch that. And if you don't get in there, you're just going to get left behind, as you say, and it's going to be a nightmare to try and catch up. But further to your point, Stevie, that whole 3 players could have made a big difference. Every podcast and everyone who has any sort of knowledge of Celtic at all can see that a goalkeeper, a left back, and a number 10 would have been the 3 signings that was really needed to push the team to the next level in the close season, and they didn't make a move in it. Surely the board can see that, I mean, are they just going to turn around and throw the list out as soon as Brendan walks in? He goes, we'll sort that. And as soon as he walks out, just scrunch out and throw in the bin and just give him that as he closes the office door. Because that's the way it looks to me at this moment in time when you look at the figure of 72 million sitting in the bank and you've got 3 positions you're screaming out to be fixed.
The funny thing as well, Willie, and I would say funny, taking the piss sort of situation here is you invest that money on players, you do well in the Champions League, their value goes up, then suddenly you sell them for more and you make more money and then you get a slightly better quality again and you go again. And your overall squad value improves year on year on year on year. Yeah. And then you get to the point where you're just like, you're not losing that money by putting it into the squad. I think the board got a little bit jumpy after the Yeti and Barkas thing, and now they've just gone back to type again.
Club Brugge did it. Club Brugge went through similar stuff to us, buying project players, and then they started making incremental changes. And now they buy Champions League ready players, and they're in the Champions League every year.
And teams like FC Copenhagen are going to go past us as well. Teams like that have got real ambition. There's a team playing against Real Madrid last night, Union Berlin. They're a team that were hardly not even in the Bundesliga a few years ago, and now they're just miles past us as well. There's all sorts of teams all over Europe.
Union Berlin giving us 8 million for our right back, and we're I will take that. Like, you know what I mean? When he's probably worth a lot more. Josip Juranovic probably should have got more than 8 million for him too. Like,
should have got more for Giakoumakis than we got for him.
Yeah,
should have got more.
Again, we've downgraded from Giakoumakis to O because we took, as soon as he mentioned the fact that he might want away, we took the cash straight away. No questions asked, and then went and signed a guy from the Korean League who might become a decent player down the road. I'm not writing him off, but at the moment he's not. At the moment, he's not what we need in the Champions League. He's just not. It's as simple as that. And we don't have enough players of that quality in the team.
Yep. Have to agree, guys. I think we'll leave that topic there. I'm sure we'll do a deep dive into it. I'm losing my voice, so what I'll do is I'll go, Willie, how was Celtic?
We're getting into the Livingston game, is it? I take it. So here we go again. In the Livingston on that plastic Lego pitch, trying to play a team who have no intention of crossing their own halfway line. I couldn't think of a worse place to go after a defeat in Holland. For me, I think we go a smash and grab mission. Get in there, get a couple of early goals, manage the game and get out. And my hope is that's the way it'll be. I would probably be a bit fearful of any players that are carrying any niggles or any knocks to play on the plastic. Like Kyogo, for example, I don't want him to be playing. If we need him to come on in 60 minutes because we're struggling, then so be it. But I would probably start with O.
All right, Willie. So thanks for that. So how will Celtic back up from midweek match away in Europe?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a tough game, as Willie said. It's always a tough game at Livingston. You never get an easy game. It's a horrific surface against a dogged and determined team managed by a rampant Hun. So you're always going to get it. You're always going to get it tough there, and we are going to have to be careful with injured or players carrying injuries. I don't think Phillips will play, regardless if he's fit or not. I think he'll be left out of this game, and it'll be Laga, Bielka, and Skills again. I kind of disagree a little bit with Willie in that we need to play Kyogo. It's as simple as that. It'd be good if we could rest him. I don't think we can. Can you imagine the scenes if we draw or lose this game and Rodgers has left Kyogo on the bench? We just don't have that luxury. It'd be great if we had a Giakoumakis there that you could come on and lead the line and have a decent amount of confidence that he's going to score goals, but we just don't have it. So he has to play, and if he gets injured, then that's just another symptom of the poor business we've done.
I'd be playing Maeda as striker. That's what I'd be doing. But yeah, I'm just thinking with the we recently struggled at the Spaghetti had. Now the Armenvale Stadium on the plastic pitch is a potential banana skin for us, Willie.
Oh, it's definitely a potential banana skin. I mean, it wasn't until Ange came in that we kind of broke the hoodoo there. We were struggling on that pitch, no matter what sort of weather conditions was thrown out on it. So, like I say, if it was me, I would just go out and try and just go all guns blazing in the first 10, 15 minutes, get a couple of goals, and then manage the game from there on in.
Yeah, Ben, Stephen, what do you think?
Yeah, I think pretty much the same. We need to try and get the job done early. As ever, it'll all come down to getting the first goal. Because when you get the first goal, their game plan changes. They're sort of, they've got to come out and attack a little bit. They won't come right out, but there will be more spaces for us to get in and around the box. And I think that's the key. It is a potential banana skin. Brendan's team's struggled there in his first spell as manager. So it's definitely a banana skin. But, we've got to just put our faith in the fact that we're a better team than them. We're miles better than them. And, we should win the game. It's as simple as that. And I hope he sends them out with that message that, forget about hoodoos, forget about plastic pitches, forget about any of this stuff. This is Livingston you're playing, and they are crap. You are good your team that's playing in the Champions League, whatever our performance was like, we're playing in the Champions League. We shouldn't be worrying about Livingston.
No excuses. Get out there, get the business done, pick up the 3 points. That's the way I look at it. Starting lineup for me, Hart and goals. Taylor, Scales, Lagerbielke, because we don't have any other options at centre-back, and Johnson on the right. Midfield, 3, same as the midweek. See if Hatade bounces back. Up front, Mader at striker, Yang and Palmer on the wings. Stephen, what's your starting lineup and your score prediction?
Yeah, pretty much the same. Hart in goal, Johnston, Lagerbielke, Scales, and Taylor. I have half a notion that you might see Turnbull back again in midfield, just by the fact that Maeda was so poor. Now, I'm not saying that's what I think should happen, but I think there's a possibility that might happen. He retains the ball a lot better than Hatate does, and I think that might see him playing. The fact that he's, there seems to be some sort of question about Hatate's match fitness, so he might choose to leave him out of this game. You might even see Home getting a start there. So I think there may be a change in midfield. I would still go with Kyogo up front, definitely, and I would probably go back with Yang right and Maeda left, because I think Palmer will never have seen anything like this before in his life, this sort of surface. So I wouldn't be introducing him to it from the start, and maybe give him 10, 15 minutes at the end if we're comfortably ahead.
And Willie, you starting lineup and score prediction?
Probably go Hart, Taylor, Scales, Alistair Johnson, and for me, possibly see Iwata play centre half, because it may come if Phillips' injury doesn't see him back fit for the Lazio game. He may want to play Scales and Tompkins together to get a bit of understanding with each other. In the midfield, you'll see Kalmak, O'Reilly, and either Hatate or Turnbull. I'm a bit undecided on that. I think you probably will see Palmer. I kind of agree with what Stephen says there, but Maeda on the right and O up front, because I just fear that pitch might be too much for Kyogo's wee shoulder if he takes a little tumble on it. So, and score prediction 2-0. Get a couple early goals, manage the game out.
Do you give your score prediction, Stephen?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be positive here and say we're going to win the game 4-0 quite comfortably. So you've got to be confident.
Michael Ross said 90% possession for Celtic and a double turgid 1-0 for the boys. And for me, I think we're going to have fun. It's going to be 6-0. We're going to hit a couple early, get our ring on, off we go. Hopefully, I'm proven right, and it's not Michael Ross's thing of a turgid boring 1-0, but, I doubt it. So, thanks everyone for tuning in. If you haven't done so, hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel and on your podcast app. Hit the like button on YouTube, helps us with the algorithm. We've got a Facebook group and page on Instagram, Twitter, and Threads. You can find us at Celtic Down. We've also, the month of October is Mental Health Awareness Month. So Celtic Down Under team is doing a fundraiser for that. So the link's in the show notes. If you've got a couple of spare dollars or whatever and you want to support us, click the link, check it out. Don't expect everyone to, because, it's a bit tough this time of the year with it, lead up to Christmas and everything else. But appreciate any support we can get. Final thoughts, boys. Over to you, Willie.
Yeah, 2 weeks of being a solo dad while my wife went home to visit her family. I take my hats off to any solo parents out there. Fair play to you. And the final thought for me tonight is ooh ah up the waz.
Stephen, final thought. Yeah, as I showed everybody earlier in mid rant, I got myself the new top during the week, so I'm really chuffed with it. It's a great top, So I've just probably shown myself out to be a complete hypocrite by buying into the bullshit. But yeah, I'll be parading around the house with that on for the next few days.
Yeah, and for me, it just it's pretty simple. I was just gonna say, like, just want to thank everyone who has been helping the channel, all the contributors, everyone in the comments that get on every week. We're getting some really good feedback lately, so thanks for that. And if you enjoy what we do, enjoy seeing any direct messages on Twitter or anything like that, just letting us know that you enjoyed what we're doing. So keep it coming. It's good for the ego, good for the boys to know that what we're doing is appreciated, and yeah, building this community. So thank you. All right, everyone. We'll see you next week on Monday for the pot noodle after hopefully a absolute smashing win. See you then. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail.
Hell.